Episode 23 of the Women of Wrestling podcast is up and running. I'm Stu Allen alongside Lee Burton as usual. And Lee, our guest tonight, none other than your soul's tormentor, MsChif.
Quite frankly, somebody who I was never sure whether we'd actually have on the show, but I'll probably explain that when MsChif's on the line.
Well, I'm glad that she's on finally, and, she should have some interesting stories to tell. SHIMMER champion for ever. And veteran of IWA Mid-South and Gateway Championship Wrestling, and somebody who is famous for being one of those women who promises she will never go to WWE or TNA.
Quite frankly, I think we're only going to scratch the surface as far as this interview is concerned, but let's see how much we can ask and see what reactions we get from MsChif.
Are you going to cover the microbiology questions?
I might do.
We'll see how we go. But before we get to MsChif, just a quick one to mention. This weekend coming up, a couple of big shows as far as women's wrestling are concerned. I'll start in Canada, in Montreal specifically. Femme Fatale run again. They are headlined by a big tag team match with Portia Perez and Calamity against Cheerleader Melissa and Mercedes Martinez. Show's also going to feature the debut in Femme Fatale for SHIMMER champion Madison Eagles and also former WSU Spirit champion Brittany Savage.
Do you know what? I'm actually quite looking forward to Brittany Savage being there, just because, she's now number one contender for the WSU title. That profile's rising. She might be an interesting one to see how she does.
Yeah, absolutely. She's somebody who's actually not really often travelled outside the WSU sphere of influence, so it should be interesting to see how she gets on up there, and she's going to be taking on the returning Cherry Bomb.
Yeah, and then Madison Eagles is up against one of our new favourites, Courtney Rush.
Yes, love a bit of Courtney Rush. And Lufisto will be defending the International Championship against La Parfaite Caroline.
That was actually quite well done as far as the French accent is concerned.
Thank you. But that's far from the only championship action this weekend. You are going to be making your way up to Morecambe, of all places.
Lovely sunny Morecambe in the northwest of England. Yes, I'll be there for XWA's War on the Shore, which is going to feature a Pro Wrestling Eve championship match. Brittany Knight defending against Jenny Cadine. The two of those have been exchanging words on Twitter all week. It's been ridiculous how much they've been talking to each other and throwing insults at each other. Just so you know, we at Rimbales are going to be supporting Brittany Knight. The good folks over at Dirty Dirty Sheets look like they're supporting Jenny Cadine.
Yes, it's a war, ladies and gentlemen.
It is, it's a big bad war.
So we're going to be bringing you coverage of both those shows this weekend, so keep an eye on the website for that, ringbellsonline.com. And with that, time to head across to the interview as we jump in the car and head down the road into the Inferno. And if we get there, we will see you on the other side. And we are back with the interview segment on the show where we have entered the Inferno itself to speak to your soul's tormentor. Welcome to the show, MsChif.
How's it going?
Pretty good, thank you. And, it's been a long time coming. I've wanted to say those words for quite a while, but when we've discussed having you on the show in the past, I was usually the person that brought it up as an idea. Let's talk to MsChif. And Lee would always respond, no, we can't. We have to protect kayfabe.
No, this is true. I always wanted to protect the character of MsChif.
Hey, that's cool, I understand that.
I didn't want to believe that MsChif had a telephone.
Ah, well, it's a rental.
But, things have changed for you in the last couple of years as far as, the amount that the distance that you've gone to protect kayfabe and protect your character and so on. Would you say that's a fair enough? Yeah, I would say so.
I don't know. I would say it's just a matter of people actually finally, asking, no one's ever bothered before. They just kept their distance, I suppose. I don't know.
Is it because you scare people? Is that what it is, do you think?
Possibly. I think so.
But, for example, would you have done the Secret Life of a Scientist program that you did last year, say, 5 years ago?
I would have. That's something that's so different, how can I say no to that? That's a freaking show on Nova, man, that they did a spin-off for a web series. How can I say no to something like that? That's just kind of cool. I don't know. I got kind of excited when those guys contacted me. So, I would have done it.
Okay, that's kind of cool. It's little things like that because, where you let people into your life a little bit, or even a couple of years ago on Halloween when you and Daisy Hayes did the picture where you guys swapped outfits for a photo shoot, and it just seemed like you were sort of, I guess, opening up a little bit, but that
was actually something a little bit more personal.
Okay.
That's just something because we just thought it would be cool to do between ourselves. We've known each other for so long in the business. We started at the same place and have just had so many battles between one another and so many matches even with one another. So, I mean, that was just like something that her and I just thought would be really fun to do. It's something that, we could put in our own history. And it actually, the timing of it was purely coincidental. It happened to be one of the Shimmer shows that was, I don't know, maybe it was an August one. I honestly can't remember. It's been several years ago now, but, it was one that was coming up, or maybe even September. So it was one that was coming up, but by the time we had the pictures back, Halloween was right around the corner. So we were just kind of like, well, you know what? Heck with it. It's Halloween. Let's put it out there. So, yeah, that was something really just personal for ourselves.
Of course, I mean, you and Daisy, though, have that history that's gone right back to the beginning of your careers.
Yep, definitely.
Cool. We'll go back and we'll talk about hopefully a little bit about those gateway years in a little bit. But I mean, let's bring it right up to date and let's talk about what you're up to currently. And what you're up to currently is unfortunately sitting on a shelf.
Yeah, currently I'm sitting on my couch and no, not really. Actually, I'm doing a lot of rehab. I'm back to like doing a lot of cardio with at least the elliptical. I got to do something that cannot have any impact on the knee whatsoever. But I'm back to that. I'm back to weight training. I'm at least, have something going. But yeah, I mean, it sucks not being able to wrestle. It sucks not being able to do, basically any other thing. I can't do any kind of thing that requires lateral movement. So I mean, it's very, very limited to what I can do with the knee. For the most part, it's not anything that hurts me, but the main thing that sucks right now is if I even, try to completely straighten it, that's, painful right at the front below the kneecap. So, I mean, it's just things like that I'm trying to get back working again, trying to get it going, and it constantly swells up on me after, cardio, but I guess all in time.
Well, you had, from what we found out, you had ligament damage, muscle damage, a tear in your meniscus as well. I mean, it does sound pretty nasty, and from the sounds of it, it sounds like you weren't doing anything that spectacular for it to happen. How did the injury come about?
You know what? That really sucks. It really, really does. So I already don't have ACLs in both knees. Both knees, the ACL is snapped. The left one went back in 2004. The right one went back in 2007 or 8. I kind of lose track now. But so the main thing, that I always had to focus and concentrate on is I couldn't land on my feet hard. That was one thing I always had to make sure I avoided, no matter what I was doing. And that's pretty much exactly what happened, Details aren't really that big a deal, but yeah. So I mean, basically, yeah. As stupid as that sounds, I landed on my freaking feet.
Is that it? Is that all that happened?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Oh, yikes!
So the problem with that is, without having the ACL, the knee cannot take that sort of impact, and it just twisted without the ACL to support it, and that's how the ligaments got torn, because the ACL is one of your main ligaments that holds your thigh bone and shin bone in place without being able to turn randomly. Mm. So, it kind of loses that stability without the ACL, and hard impact kind of causes them to go ahead and decide to turn, and with that turn, that's when it puts all the strain on the other ligaments and everything, holding it together. And it was just too much of an impact that they couldn't handle it. And yeah, it's, that was the thing. They don't even know if the other ligaments were actually torn, or if they might have just been, kind of stretched. So for my part, I'm hoping they were just stretched, because obviously that's not nearly as bad. But yeah, there was a tear in the meniscus for sure. It wasn't, nothing major, but enough to really cause a lot of problems. That's the part I'm having the most problem with right now, is the meniscus part.
This isn't something that you need surgery for, but had it have been something that you would have needed surgery for, What would that have meant for your career?
No. Did you just ask if that would have been the end of it? Absolutely not. I mean, I can't. It's just, I don't know. I can't, not yet. I'm not ready for the end yet, So, I mean, it would have seriously stopped having needed surgery because, the way I hear it, that kind of knee surgery always takes like a 6-month recovery process, then into a 6-month rehab. So that's putting you out for a year at least. And, it would have really sucked. And, thankfully it's nothing that needed surgery.
Did you know immediately that you'd done it really badly? I mean, was it immediate that it was, yeah?
Actually, no, not really. I knew it was hurt. The thing is when I landed and I felt, the little shift in there, what it does. And the thing is that, I felt that from time to time before. Nothing that was ever really a big deal. It got back up on it, no problem, went on. And it was okay. It was always, nice and swollen up, after the match. And,
oh, lovely.
Probably a day or two after. But it wasn't ever anything that was a big deal. But this time when it happened, it was a lot harder than I had felt it before. And the problem is that it would not take any weight on it whatsoever. And I hadn't dealt with that since tearing the ACL. And it was actually even a little bit worse than that because even when the ACLs tore, they could still take weight on it. They were just really unstable. This time, it was really painful. And it just, I had the unstableness in it too, but it was also just really, really painful, and it would not take weight on it whatsoever. So,
day-to-day life then, does that mean then that you have to constantly watch what you're doing? Are you in pain in your day-to-day life?
No, not at all. Day-to-day life, it's not a problem. It's like the ACLs were never a problem day-to-day life. I could do about anything, and, I had no effect, as weird as that seems. But I mean, with the way it is now, walking around, it's fine. It's a little bit awkward yet still because I can't fully straighten it yet. So I mean, I do feel it. I feel the difference, but it's not painful until, maybe if I make that sudden turn, or actually get it, as I'm stretching, because I always have to keep stretching it out, trying to get that fully, straightened, proportion back. But, I mean, it sucks, working with it, yeah, that hurts. But, basically, it's enough of a bothersome that I know it's there. I know it's injured, so I never forget about it. But it doesn't, for the most part, hurt just for day-to-day things.
Your 10-year anniversary is on July the 19th, then. Are you going to be back in the ring for that?
I'm hoping. That one's my goal, and, I mean, it'll be really sad if I can't do it. But I'm really, really hoping to. I'll just have to wait and see. I can't call that one right now.
You said something earlier on that made me a little bit curious. I mean, we know that you've had no ACLs in either of your knees, and you wear these, knee braces and so on. And we always thought you're a bit of a medical marvel for being able to wrestle without ACLs. But I mean, are you telling me that because of these ACLs or lack thereof, you've essentially had to change the way that you wrestle to compensate for that? If you can't just put weight on your legs the way everyone else can, how did you manage to change your style, and was it difficult to unlearn what you had learned to protect yourself? No,
not at all, really. It's just, there was just certain maneuvers that I know I have to be able to avoid. I mean, there's certain moves I used to do, that required, coming around, landing on the feet, and, obviously just had to take them out, and, but, I mean, I don't know. It was more having to take things out of what I do rather than so much modification of relearning how to do something.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't, I don't know. I guess it wasn't a big thought process. All it was is that, imagining, okay, because things will just pop in my head of, how I want to do something, and, it's just kind of imagining, okay, either Does it come to the feet? No. Okay, let's just drop to the knees. Because that's kind of an odd thing to think about. It's the knees that are messed up, right?
Yeah.
Yet if I drop to the knee, that's no problem whatsoever. It's kind of like if you think of the obliteration finisher.
Yeah.
That would be one. Where basically, I don't know what you want to call the thing, some kind of pile driver modified gimmick out of the corner, from the second row. I dropped straight to my knees, right? But yeah, I mean, that has no effect on him whatsoever.
It's strange.
Who knows?
Your body.
Yeah.
Oddest thing in the world.
It is. And it seems like an idea to talk about it here, but if we keep talking about this, it makes it sound like you're constantly injuring yourself. But I just want to mention as well the fact that you did your shoulder in. This was 2010, literally 15 minutes before doors were supposed to open on a Shimmer show.
No, it wasn't even that, dude. It was freaking 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Excuse me. But again, it was again something pretty innocuous, wasn't it? You were just, from what I understand, you were just rolling about, trying something out, and all of a sudden your shoulder dislocated. Talk us through what happened there.
It wasn't an all of a sudden.
Okay.
It was. It was just. It's hard to explain if you don't know like gymnastics terms, because I don't really know how to explain it without it. But basically, I was sitting on my butt, and I was attempting to just push up from there with my arms behind me, right, into, I think I'm getting there with wrestling terms. So I'm sitting on my butt, arms behind me, push up from there into a bridge, kicking up over my head at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to explain it. It's called a back walkover in gymnastics terms. It's just going from where I'm on my butt and already up on my feet. And the thing
I know what you mean.
Okay, you got it there?
Yeah.
I've done that thing. I've done it like so many times before. But it's just what happened is that when I had my hands down behind me, by the time that I was pushing up to the bridge and kicking over, the shoulder needed to rotate, and I must have had the hand down in a direction that didn't allow it to. But my weight was already up and over and going the other direction. So the shoulder had nowhere to go and just, rotated it and rolled right out of position.
So it was just happening, and you were flipping up over your head, and you just thought, this is going to end badly.
No, not at all, actually. I didn't even notice it. So when I came back around, and I backed my feet, and I heard this kind of like this rip going in the shoulder.
Oh, lovely.
And that's also one of those things that, I've heard that sound many times before, never a big deal, and I was just kind of rolled it around a second. I was like, oh man, all right, hold on, let me get this shoulder kind of a little bit funky, and then I looked down at it and I was like, oh, yeah, it's not. So I mean, it was really creepy looking, because it was like where the shoulder should be nice and rounded, it was like actually kind of concaved in. And the top of the shoulder bone that makes the little ball in the socket, that part of it was down about the middle of the bicep. Yeah, so, yeah, fun stuff.
As Shimmer fans, we're used to, doors not opening on time, but at least that was a pretty damn good excuse on that show.
Yeah.
But no, I'm aware that I don't want to keep talking about injuries, because again, it does gives a wrong impression to somebody who doesn't know you, that you're some sort of walking person.
Right. Just a disaster.
Nightmare.
Yeah, it's not that way at all, of course. But I mean, let's go back. You talked about it a little bit earlier, that you've had a sort of a joint history or a shared history with Daisy Hayes, and it all goes back to when you started wrestling in Gateway Championship Wrestling. That was where you trained originally, and you told the story actually, and you can sort of go over it again if you want in the Secret Life of Scientists thing, where it was somebody asked you at your job if there's something that you wanted to do with your life that you never had, and you thought, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind being a wrestler. It was
right.
It was just as simple as that, and then you decided, okay, I'm going to look up a wrestling school.
Exactly. You know?
That's
I was at the bench one day, and I was, sitting there doing my reactions, and the woman walked in, and, I guess the secretaries get a little bored. They kind of roam around from lab to lab at the time. And she just walks in and starts talking off, and she's like, what would you do? She's like, if you just had something really fun you wanted to do in life. I was like, really? It's like, well, put it that way. I was like, I think I'd learn to wrestle. It wasn't even, I think I would become a wrestler, it's just, I think I would learn to wrestle.
Yeah.
And it was like as soon as she left, I just kind of sat there and I was like, well, that was interesting. Why don't I then? So, I got done with my thing, hopped on the internet, started searching up, nearby wrestling schools. Yeah, that's all it was.
And Gateway was chosen specifically because it was the one that was most convenient for you as far as your work. Is that right?
Not really. There were two, and I went to shows for both of them, and I chose the one that I thought had, the most promise to and put on the best shows.
See, that's smart.
Yep.
What was the other promotion, and are they still around?
They're still around. I don't want to badmouth anyone.
Okay. All right. Then. All right. Well, I mean, the fact that you said that if you wanted to do or if you could do something else with your life, you'd learn to wrestle. Presumably that means you'd been a big wrestling fan growing up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was always a wrestling fan.
So, I mean, again, I love asking this question because you never know when someone strange is going to pop up into the conversation. But who were your favourites? Who inspired you as a wrestler?
King Kong Brody and Undertaker and the Rockers, Rock and Roll Express. Mm-hmm. I loved them. They were just fun guys. But those are the main ones. Those are my main favorites, I guess. I liked Demolition a lot when they came around, and Legion of Doom.
the Brody connection, I guess, is pretty big from St. Louis as well. Yeah, he did a lot of the old show, the old St. Louis Wrestling at the Chase. Yeah.
So it was like the Chase Park Plaza Hotel that always held this wrestling shows, and they were huge. I mean, it was like, back then, that's like back in the 70s, and that was like, to wrestlers, one of the things that, like, if you were working in St. Louis, that signified you made it. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. That's a really neat thing. That's a neat history for St. Louis. But it's awesome.
So then, when you went to Gateway, your main trainers at the start were what? Johnny Greenpeace? Was he the main guy? Would you say?
Yeah, main trainer Johnny Greenpeace. No fooling around with him too. So, but that's good. That was. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes when you get trainers, I know that just kind of lets people play around there. I think that's when a lot of people start getting hurt and stuff. But no, this guy was. He was good. He was hard. He was a tough guy, and you had to make sure you pleased him. So you had to make sure you were doing things right.
Sure.
But yeah, it was good. It was him, and we had our comic relief with Jack Adonis was the other trainer. He wasn't able to make it all the time. He was further away, but when he did come in, he was our laughter for the night. So he was fun though. He was a good guy.
By the time you started, then obviously you were already in gainful employment. Were you at that point? Were you a microbiologist at that point, or?
I was not. I was in human genetics.
Right. So when you went to Johnny Greenpeace and Gateway and you said, right, hey, hello there, I'm a geneticist. I would quite like to learn how to wrestle. Did you have impressions that this is something that you'd like to do and maybe do once or twice just to prove that you've done it, or did you go in thinking, you know what, if I enjoy this, I could probably make a bit of a second career out of this?
Kind of none of it.
Okay.
When I went in to wrestle, I didn't open up, to everything I did yet. I didn't say, oh yeah, this is just what I kind of want to check into. I didn't, announce that this is what I do. Obviously, that came out probably, only a few weeks later, I'm sure. Mm. I don't really recall the impact it made, but I don't know. I never really considered that wrestling was going to make any kind of big change for me. I figured I was probably never going to go anywhere outside of St. Louis. I didn't see it as something likely. It was just, it was literally something I wanted to do because I wanted to learn how to do it, and it was part of my fun in life as it came to be. But, you know, it's just as things turned out, you know, thankfully, I absolutely love how things have come along, and, you know, it's just, I don't know, it got to be a lot bigger than I ever expected, but not enough to where I ever thought that, yes, I would rather do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, you know, a whole life and financial goal and all that, you know. I mean, obviously I can't wrestle while I'm, you know, 61 years old, I'm sure. But you know, wrestling does not give you your insurance in life. It doesn't give you, you know, your retirement set up. So, you know, I kind of like to have, you know, the good stuff to fall back on, you know.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't think if I gave up science to go wrestle for the next 20 years, science would be like, okay, wait a minute, how old are you now? And you've been out of the science field for 20 years. You think you really even know anything to come back here? You know, that wouldn't happen, right?
Mm.
So.
Well, with that in mind, then, about considering that you know you work full time in the week and then you wrestle on the weekend as well, there might be some people who maybe negatively might say you're like a weekend warrior and you're not taking wrestling as seriously. What would you say to people who might have that as a criticism about you?
Oh, that's crap. Because you know what, the way I look at it like this, I'm giving up just about every damn bit of free time I have. For people who go off and just wrestle on the weekend, they've got the whole week, you know. Sometimes, yeah, those weekday shows, but they've got the whole freaking week to do whatever else they need, okay? I'm working Monday through Friday. Then I go off and I work my weekends for wrestling as well. So don't even tell me to do it, you know, that's treating it as a joke. Because the way I see it, it's not like, you know, like I said, you know, yeah, I don't want wrestling to be my absolute full-time career. But that's also because about the only way you can do that is if you go to, like, TNA or WWE, you know, even TNA, I mean, they still make it hard enough for people to make ends meet. And it's like, for those guys, wow, really? I would have to completely sell out my character. I would have to be changing my name. I would be told what I can and can't do. I would be told, like every other girl on the TV right now, you're too fat and you need to drop 10 pounds. I don't want to have to deal with that kind of crap. I don't even want to have to hear it. I want to have my own choices. I want to be able to do what I want to do. If I put on 10 pounds, so what? No one's going to say a damn word and complain to me about it. You know, so I mean, no, I do not take wrestling as a joke whatsoever. And, I mean, if I was joking about this, the first injury I ever had, I would have said, shoot, screw that, man. That wasn't as fun as I thought. I have gone through so many freaking injuries, it's ridiculous. And I keep coming back and I keep coming back just to give on shows and do as good as I can, you know, to make people happy.
Just on a side note with that, and you talked about TNA and we talked about injuries there. We know you're good friends with Daffney. We've been in touch with her recently and stuff. And as far as this sort of workers' comp lawsuit which is running as well, any thoughts on that? Any feelings on that?
It's just sad, man. It really, really is. You know, I mean, I don't want to talk for her. I don't want to get into, you know, details on that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, that's her story to tell, but it's unbelievably sad. It really, really is. I mean, when you do choose something like that for your career, and yet when it's someone above you's stupid choices, you know, to put you out there in danger, and then you get hurt over it, and then they don't do a damn thing about it. You know, it's a very, very sad situation. It really is.
I assume you're still in touch as well. I remember the time I think we rocked up to the hotel where the Shimmer roster was staying at, and for some reason, just randomly, you were both wearing, what was it, Wonder Woman t-shirts?
That was absolutely awesome. I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, she flies in from the East Coast. I'm coming up from the Midwest. We meet at the hotel, and hey, we're both in Wonder Woman. How awesome is that? I mean, that's just cool.
It's fantastic. You guys are like twin sisters from different misters.
Absolutely.
Based off of that, I mean, and again, you know, we don't need to touch too specifically on the Daffney situation too much, but I mean, she was obviously injured doing, you know, and I mean, I'll say it, doing stupid things for TNA because other people suggested that it would be a good idea for her. I mean, right. You've wrestled and you did do for few years in IWA Mid-South, and you did some pretty violent matches, but you never went as far as getting involved with, and I don't think you ever have gotten involved in any sort of death matches or anything like that. Again, that's just one of those things where it's just not going to be worth it long term as far as your day-to-day life is concerned, to be going out there and doing something as blatantly dangerous as that.
For me personally, no. I don't have the desire to it. I love, different stipulation matches. I really, really do. Like things, TLC matches, tables matches, all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, I really do love doing that kind of stuff. But when it comes to actual death match style, I'm just not into it. I mean, I don't know. I just don't feel that, scarring up the body is all that necessary for myself personally. Anyone else, hey, that's your thing, go for it. I'm all for you. But for me, it's just not for me.
Just swinging back to your training, just for a little while. How far into your training did the MsChif character come about?
Well, it existed at the very first show. So the first time I came out, I mean, it was there. It was just more of a toned down level. It progressed and, kind of grew just as I kept going out, as I just kept moving on. But it was always there,
It is very you, that gimmick, isn't it?
It is, and I don't know how to feel about that. Because, I mean, like, so many people are, like, scared of this character. And it cracks me up because I've met other wrestlers who are like, yeah, I mean, we're friends now. And they're like, I have to say I was, like, really afraid to even talk to you. And I'm like, are you serious, man?
That was me.
So, I mean, yeah, how do you feel about that? I don't know. It is, but it really is. And that's half scary, half entertaining. I don't know, but it is. It's totally me.
Yeah, it took years for me to be able to come up and say hello to you. But I remember also, we're going to swing forward a little bit to this later on. But when we were at Chick Fight 7, when it came over here for the first time into the UK, the promoter Dan Reed came behind us during, I think it was your match against, I think it was Jade, I think it was. But anyway, he came behind us and said, would you guys mind cheering for MsChif? Because everyone's a bit scared and doesn't know what to make of her.
That's awesome.
But
that is absolutely awesome.
We'll get to Chick Fight later on. We've got a little bit more to cover before that.
Your debut match was on July 19th, 2001. Against somebody called Christine on what's a show called Hillsborough Havoc at the Jefferson County Fair. And I understand this was after 8 training sessions, but you still went over as well. So I mean, was this?
It was all messed up, man. I mean, it was the match should have never happened. It really shouldn't have. The girl that I wrestled, she'd only been training about 6 months. Okay, she had never had a show before. So it was both of ours very first match ever. I had 8 freaking training sessions, like you just said. Really?
Yeah.
Who does that? But, I mean, I don't know. As far as I hear, as far as he tells me, the promoter it was a sold show, meaning that, where the show was put on, these people, paid the promoter so much money to put. So one of the things that they wanted is they said they wanted a women's match. He promises them a women's match without actually having the women to do it. So he had this one girl who was training. Christine's been training for like 6 months. She was ready to go ahead and start having, shows. Then his only other option is that he had this manager girl who I guess, apparently wanted to wrestle as well, but hadn't been training to do it. She kind of knew here and there how to do a little bit. So she was starting to train, to kind of fill the spot. But, I come in then, so many weeks out before the show, and my training progression, went pretty fast. But
clearly.
Still, and, well, I mean, I don't know. It kind of came kind of easy with all the movements and stuff. I mean, I've had a whole background of dance and gymnastics, and, so it's like knowing how to move your body around and how to, feel things with other people and stuff, if that makes any sense. But So I mean, it wasn't just like completely foreign. What was foreign about it is all the pain that also comes along with it. But so I mean, I learned the movements. I learned how to move in a ring, and but still, after such a short time, no, I was nowhere near ready to go out there and have a match. But the guy promises these people, he'd have a women's match, and there I come. Hey, let's go. They somewhat covered it a bit by having a heel referee.
Right.
As odd as that is. So, I mean, it was just, I don't know. It was, it shouldn't have happened when it did. Okay. But, basically, I kept going back to training. I kept going back and back, learning more and stuff. But since he already had me in one show, he kept booking me for the next, shows too. So it's not like he put me out there for one show just because he said he had to have this women's match and then took me off to finish training. It's just as I'm training, well, okay, I'm also having matches too. But, thankfully, it was just with the people we actually had there at Gateway at the time, we had a really, really unbelievably amazing roster. And the people were just so very, very talented. And it was just a great group to learn from, and that really kind of helped me think on a lot, too.
Who was Christine, by the way?
Christine was this 6-foot woman. Literally. She was 6 feet tall.
Right.
And she lasted for 2 matches. She had our first match, and then she had a tag match, that we were in. And from there she quit and never came back.
Oh. Okay. So the other question I have to ask then is, does this match exist on tape?
Possibly.
You have it, don't you?
Might be buried somewhere.
I'm thinking it would be a nice thing to do on the 10th anniversary date, like put it up on your website or something.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, okay, it was worth a try. Actually, it's a good point. You mentioned there about your dance background and so on, and do you have that sort of like, I'm not even sure what the term is, but when dancers sort of see someone doing a move, they can immediately replicate it. Have you got that sort of photographic memory type thing?
No, not really. Mine is more something that my thought process kind of exists in its own little make-believe world. It's like instead of seeing something do something and go and replicate it, I might see him do something and, somewhere down the road, like a lot of my road trips, if I'm just doing solo road trips, things will just start, moving along in my mind, and I'll start thinking of different things, and I'll think of a situation where I saw someone do something. Then in my head, it starts shifting around and twisting and doing something completely different, and it's like, wow, I wonder if that can actually work in real life. And, sadly, half the things do, half the things don't. My mind kind of likes to defy gravity a lot. Uh-huh. But I wish my body could too, because it would be a lot more entertaining a lot of times. But,
didn't the development of the Desecrator come from a Tekken video game?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I believe it was Tekken Tag.
There you go. So I mean, any other sort of like wacky inspirations that we don't know about, or that might have brought something to your career?
Not really. Nothing that's fun like that. It just a lot of it kind of comes like, I don't know. I'll just be thinking about either something I've done before, or something I've seen in a match where someone else did it, and I kind of think of, wow, what happened if this part of it was reversed and you flipped around to the other leg and came through that way. That's kind of how my mind looks at things, and I don't know.
I can't wait for Zero Gravity Stretch Armstrong Championship Wrestling. You'd be a winner.
Absolutely. Bring it on.
Wow. Well, but until that federation gets invented, we're going to have to keep talking about those that actually do exist, or, well, at least did exist. I don't know. Is IWA Mid-South still alive, or is it not?
Yeah, just about.
Just about. But, you spent you spent a few years in there, and you had some really good series, and I think that was the thing that people now look back at as being the genesis of what became Shimmer. I wanted to talk to you specifically just really about your experiences in IWA Mid-South, because you came in really as a heel and became a babyface because, you were so awesome that people started to cheer you. I don't think there's actually necessarily a babyface turn at any point, but, just tell us about those early Shimmer those early IWA Mid-South experiences.
It was actually a lot different for me. I had Davey Hayes, in Gateway and, kind of growing up in St. Louis. Mm. But IWA is really the first time I ever wrestled other girls. So Daisy actually didn't come in until a year after I had been doing shows. So that whole time I was wrestling their guys down there. And when Daisy came in, he wasn't just going to say, okay, well, now all we can ever do is have MsChif versus Daisy. Come on, how fun would that be? As awesome as she is, you can't just wrestle the same person every show, and keep people excited. It's not going to happen. But, even with Daisy, the two of us had plenty of matches together. And at the same time, we also wrestled a lot of the other guys, too. Mm. So by the time I got to IWA, it's something like, oh, hey, there's other girls out here that wrestle. What do you know? And it caused me to change a lot of things, change, the way I was wrestling and stuff. And I can't really say change the style so much because as weird as it seems, I don't even see that I have a style. I really don't, not as far as wrestling goes. I don't see a particular style because the way I wrestle is whoever I'm in the ring with, all right, that's how we're wrestling tonight. That's what I'm adapting to. Okay. And I really think that came from being so used to wrestling the guys and suddenly, oh my God, wait, this is really different. All these girls in here. Okay, let's try this out and we'll see how that goes. So it was kind of cool. It was really neat going to IWA and learning that and seeing different aspects of wrestling and stuff. And it was different. It was good experiences. It really brought a lot more into what I had learned in wrestling. But it was fun times, man. It was a lot of exciting times then.
Was that the first time then you'd sort of been booked outside the St. Louis area?
For the most part, yes. I had done like a couple shows, a little bit further from St. Louis. I might go like an hour or 2 hours, maybe 3. But IWA, that was the first time. I think I actually did TNA dark match once before. It was before then even, but not too much before. But then IWA came and. After that, that's where everything else started coming in.
As far as IWA Mid-South, I think probably, I seem to remember, just a couple of feuds in particular that I remember you really enjoying. There was the feud you had with Mercedes Martinez. I seem to remember you guys having some particularly violent matches with her.
Did we?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
We didn't really get to have a lot of them, though, we didn't really get to...
No, things fell apart eventually, didn't they? Unfortunately, things kind of went a bit south. You made up for that, though, in Shimmer by, having a couple of matches with her there as well. But what about the feud you had with Mickey Knuckles? Again, that one went for quite a while. Mickey would have been quite...
I was going to say, very, very long.
Yeah. Well, But, Mickey would have been very, very green at that point. She just debuted and you were in matches with her. And obviously she was, the golden girl of IWA Mid-South to a certain extent as well.
Right.
How much pressure was there on you then to, help develop Mickey Knuckles as a wrestler?
I didn't see it as any pressure whatsoever.
No?
I kind of looked, I just looked at the way I always look at any match I'm going into, It's just, I'm going out there, do my thing, put on an entertaining show. That's what I'm looking to do. As long as the crowd's happy, I'm happy. And, Mickey had a lot of potential, She was a solid wrestler, and she was a very, very tough girl. And, so it wasn't any kind of a problem for, whatever I could throw at her, she could take and give it right back, So, I don't know, it was a lot of fun. I did have a lot of fun in that feud with Mickey Knuckles. A lot of hard times. But at the same time, the whole feud, it kind of brought to me a lot of, several matches that I hadn't been able to have before that, suddenly I got the chance to, and that was really fun. So, we had our first blood match, and, I'm not one to really do a lot of first blood matches. Like I said, hey, I'm not one to really care for bleeding all too much, so it's happened a couple times, not by choice. But, I had that, and then I had my very first cage match I ever had was with her. And, so that was, quite interesting to see what I could come up with, too. But, yeah, I don't know. I think we had a fun little time there.
About the cage match, because I remember that the thing about that cage match is one thing that did stick out to me a lot was the fact that the venue was essentially a theatre and the ring was on the stage. What's that like? Because it's a very different setup to what you would normally expect a wrestling setup to be, as opposed you got all the audience on one side of the ring and then just three sides of nothing around you.
It didn't freak me out too bad, with background in dance, I was quite used to the situation. But as far as wrestling goes, yeah, you're used to being more, surrounded out there and being able to hear the people from all sides. And so, as far as that goes, it really sucks. You can't interact with the crowd at all whatsoever because they're 10 feet out and 4 or 5 feet below, where they're supposed to be. And I'm only on one side. So it wasn't too bad we did the first blood match there too, and that one was fine because, hey, we spilled off the stage and out into the crowd with that one. But yeah, with the cage, you're confined and can't get anywhere, and yeah, it's not a type of venue I ever recommend. It can't be nearly as fun for the people either because, then you're literally just sitting there watching a show. It's nothing that you can really, kind of get up and be involved with,
Yeah, a certain disconnect there, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Just on the question of Mickey Knuckles, are you in contact with her still? Because whenever the Shimmer thing started, you guys all went to do Shimmer. She kind of stuck around in IWA Mid-South for a while, and you still in contact with her in any way?
I haven't actually talked to Mickey in years, but I also wouldn't really say that she stayed with IWA and we took off with Shimmer. It's nothing like that whatsoever. It was just, everybody involved to the slightest degree, might decide, who's being asked to be on shows. I shouldn't say to go, because it's not like we split up and said, later IWA, I'm going to Shimmer. It was nothing like that whatsoever. Praise like, hey, I split my ways with IWA. That's cool. It's like, I don't give a damn where you guys want to work, but I'm going to ask you and you and you and you, do you want to work my show that I'm going to put on? I'm going to put the show on, I believe it was November 4th. And was it the 4th? Something like that. November 6th, haha, I believe that. Yeah, November 6th. How I remember that, I don't know. So, anyway. So, it's not like we were like, oh, later, guys, I'm going this way. Yeah. I did work a couple IWA shows after that still. It was, there's just a whole lot of messed up stuff here and there, and nothing really worth saying, hey, this is that. But, I've never had any heat with Mickey. I have no problem with her whatsoever. But it's just, as things change, you move on, you meet other people, and you can't keep in contact calling back, the 167 people that you were close to once before.
True. Let's talk a little bit about Chick Fight then, as another place where the women were getting to wrestle, and this would have been your opportunity to travel over to the West Coast. And you competed in Chick Fight 4, won Chick Fight 4 as well. And that was over Mercedes in the final, if I'm right.
Yeah, that one was.
And I also seem to remember you and she and Melissa having some sort of wild brawl on the evening show that went up into a balcony and so. Any particularly interesting or fun memories of traveling out to the West Coast to wrestle? Was that your first time out there?
It was. And then, I mean, thankfully I've gotten to go, so many other places and then back there too, since then. But yeah, that was my first flight trip, I mean, that's where everything started opening up at. And, yeah, it was fun. It was interesting, and yeah, I mean, that match was just, you gotta see it. It's just one of those matches, man. It's one of those that kind of floor people a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I love doing the things that are just so different from that. I love getting to do things that you can go everywhere and you're looking around the building as you're out there and thinking, oh, what the hell can I use out here, And somehow we all stumbled upon stairs and, hey, let's, just keep fighting. As by the time we come out of them, we're hanging out over a balcony with a crowd like so many 20 feet below or whatever they were. I don't know. But yeah, it happens.
Chick Fight also got you your probably would it be your first international trip then over to the UK of all places where you come to visit us for Chick Fight in Great Yarmouth? Actually,
it wasn't Chick Fight that got me to the UK. It was actually RQW. I don't think they still run over there anymore, but no. The promoter was Len Davies, and so it was that promotion, RQW, and it's really sad that they're not around because, wow, they were a really, really promising promotion. I mean, the whole look of it, the stage effects, the cameras they had, the whole thing was amazing. I mean, they made out a really, really professional organization. So, I mean, it's really, really sad to hear that, they don't run anymore. But that's what got me over there. And it was probably talking, I'm sure the promoters talking between one another saying, hey, we're already kind of, figuring on getting her out here, and guess what? We're going to do Chick Fight on at the same time too, right? Excellent, and I'm sure it ended up being like more of a collaboration of things.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, so RTW was my first experience over there, and followed into Chick Fight 7 that they had.
And that would have represented the first time that we got to see you live as well. I mean, as far as the Chick Fight shows and your British shows were concerned, the one match in particular, if I had to sort of point to that I have really, really fond memories of, and that was being Chick Fight 8 in Gloucester, which I'm sure you remember was in a nightclub, and you fought Wesna in the finals.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just talked briefly about that three-way match where it's like, wandering around and using various things. I assume this match was, pretty much the same as far as you're concerned, because you guys went all over this venue. You even went behind the bar and
that was awesome.
Put each other's heads underneath the beer taps and
that was awesome.
And so on.
Yeah.
What do you remember of that show? And Wesna in particular, even.
Wesna. Yeah, so that was my first time meeting Wesna. I was seriously impressed with her. I mean, she was a really, really excellent wrestler. I think that's one of the craziest venues I've ever been in. I mean, it was kind of weird, there was this like 360-degree screen that went around the ring, and you could look up at any time and see yourself wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, hey. It was just very, very odd. It was very awkward, but I mean, it was a really neat, kind of place. It was definitely pretty cool, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I definitely had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah, I mean, we love Wesna, but she is absolutely batshit crazy, isn't she? I mean, some of the things that she'll do in a match to her body, to for the sake of the match is pretty impressive.
It is, definitely.
And that was the show that kind of ignited the Wesna and cheerleader Melissa feud that sort of went on for quite a while. I think probably you would have been majorly responsible for really establishing Wesna as, that much of an ass kicker in that main event.
You think so?
I think so.
That's awesome to hear. I thank you. That's fantastic.
Well, Wesna was making her UK debut on that show as well. So while I had heard of her from Reputation, it was
okay.
I remember running around, trying to, because there was no seating on that venue as well, so everyone was just running around, and
right.
I just remember that match particularly just blowing my mind. And then when Melissa came out and they sort of reignited that feud, it was like, wow, okay, now we're getting a feud, now we're getting a war.
Nice, that's awesome.
While we're just talking about the UK for a while as well, you had a particular meeting when you're at RQW. You met the Great Muta.
I did. Absolutely. That was the coolest thing about that actually is the evening I met Muta. That was my first time over there. That was also Muta's first time ever over there.
Yes.
How cool is that?
He had a few issues with being over there.
But we debuted on the same show in England together. How cool is that?
He almost didn't make it.
I know. I heard that.
There was
like some totally huge issue over it.
Yeah, there were some issues with the promoter who was supposed to be bringing over Muta,
right.
and Len stepped in at the last minute and said, "It's okay, we'll book him on our show." So, yeah,
right.
There you go.
Definitely.
I assume, I don't know this, but I assume Muta would have been a big influence on you.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally should have mentioned, the first time you even asked about, a lot of influential wrestlers. But yeah, I really, really loved Muta's style. Just kind of more almost like a low profile, creepy kind of, get under your skin type. That was the way I saw him. But yeah, he was big influence, definitely.
He was definitely at times disturbing as well, and he also did the Green Mist, and again, I guess that's a direct, homage to Muta.
Absolutely, definitely. Muta was just awesome. Muta was the greatest, so yeah.
What can you tell us? It may be personal, but when you got to meet Muta, is there anything you can tell us? Any sort of little hints of wisdom from Great Muta?
You know what? Not beyond your general knowledge, I guess. It's not like we sat down and talked like wrestling strategy.
No.
I don't know. I really don't like to. If I'm sitting down for another wrestler, especially someone I'm meeting for the first time, and talking with them, I don't know, it's not in me to be like, so, dude, this last match you had, was a month ago, and you're wrestling Professor X here, and you did this move. It's just, I don't know. I'd rather keep wrestling out of the conversation, talk about the person themselves.
Mm-hmm. As far as Japan is concerned, actually, just to segue from Muta to Japan, your experience in Japan so far, I'd probably say fairly limited. You haven't been over there. You've been over there, what? Would it be, how many times?
Just once.
Just the once, and that was for the Wrestle Expo shows. What?
One of the shows was the Wrestling Expo. It was for NEO.
What was your impression of the Japanese system and the Japanese culture? A lot of people just when they meet Japanese, when they go to Japan for the first time, they love it, and some people absolutely hate it. Which one were you?
I thought they were absolutely amazing. I loved it, while I was there. I swear Japanese people have to be the most polite people in the world. It was just, it's just, it really is cool. It's like, I'm over there for the first time, right? And I do a couple of shows with NEO. By the time we get to the Wrestling Expo, I've already got this fan coming up to me and, giving me photos from the previous shows I just did. And I was like, wow, how awesome is that? These fans just run up to you and give me things. This is amazing. And I don't know. It's really, really cool. It was a really, really fun experience. It's one I will always remember forever, that's for sure. I don't know. It's fun. The weather was unbelievably terrible. it was so, the temperature was like really hot, like you're talking like 90s, which is fine. However, the humidity was like 172%. It was crazy. I mean, you walk outside and you literally feel like you were just standing in a thunderstorm. It's like, wow, really? I just like took a step. Yep. But it didn't even matter, you know. I mean, that did not even bother me because I'm like, wow, this is freaking Japan. You know, it's like, that's awesome. I mean, that was like the first time I'd ever even been out of the country. And my first time out of the country is freaking Japan. Like, wow. Yeah, it was awesome.
This is making me so jealous. I've been talking to so many people recently about how much they love Japan and what the culture's like and how much they've enjoyed it and just really getting a great feel for it. And I'm fed up of hearing people talk about it. I need to go over and find out for myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. I am so jealous of anybody who goes to Japan.
Absolutely, yeah. It was actually, you know, one of the coolest things about it is they actually booked my ticket like really, really close to the event of going over there, and because of that, I was actually left over there for what was it? I think 3 full days after any wrestling events. So I had nothing to do for 3 days. And also Amazing Kong, you know, lived over there. So her and I just totally walked the streets of Japan, you know, for 3 freaking days, and it was awesome. You know, so I got to see a lot of the country, a lot of the sights, and it couldn't have been a better time. It really couldn't have. One of the most entertaining things that just completely blew me away, right? We're getting ready to walk into this toy store. And this guy's walking out, and he's like, oh, Awesome Kong, you know, and he's all talking to her, and he's like totally in awe. I mean, it's Awesome Kong, how can you not? And then he turns and looks at me, he's like, oh, MsChif. I'm just like, holy crap, are you kidding me? So, yeah, I mean, it was just like, wow. Crazy thing.
From the warmness in your voice, from the way you described it, I mean, I assume it's something that you wish you could have, and maybe you still do want to go back. Why was it only a one-time deal?
I don't know.
Oh, fair enough.
You know, I've certainly never told them, hey, I'm not coming back, guys.
Right, yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, and I'm fine with that. I really am. I mean, Japan was a lot of fun. You know, it really was. I had a great time going. I did not have a great flight whatsoever. I don't know how people can, like, from the U.S., go over to Japan, you know, as often as a lot of these guys do, because I would go absolutely insane. It was a 14-hour nonstop flight. Holy crap, that was just crazy. That is really, really hard to get through.
Oh, think about those hardcore Australians.
Yeah, I know, man, because they got about the same thing coming over here, and now the Japanese girls we're using, now they're going through it too. I know, man. I don't know how they do it. I really don't.
You talked about Kong briefly there, and that's a fairly good way to bring it back to Shimmer and you know, the various big matches you've had in the promotion. I know at least at one point I saw an interview with you where someone had asked you what your favourite match was, or what match you thought best typified MsChif in Shimmer, and you'd suggested your Volume 9 match with Kong. Is that still the case for you?
It is. To me, that's like one of the big matches that just really shows through MsChif's character. You know, I mean, someone who is, you know, just absolutely will not give in, will not give up, just keep getting back up. And I don't know how you want to look at it, but that's the kind of match that I absolutely love. I really, really do. Even the return of, you know, when we had the 3-way with me and Lufisto and Kong, you know, the 3 of us out there, you know, and then it's the same thing, you know. You got this whole I don't know. Kong's just amazing, man. She really is. She's the absolute most amazing wrestler I've ever encountered. You know, I mean, she's got this awesome size on her, and yet she's completely agile in everything she does. It amazes me. She's so freaking powerful. And it's fun to be able to absorb that, while you're in the ring, and yet you're still coming back with it. So, I don't know.
One of the famous bits from that Volume 9 match with Kong is what's become known as the cymbal spot, where she puts you up around her head and causes you to kick the back of your own head in the torture rack.
Dude, that was her invention that night.
Yeah.
Then she went on to use it. I find that fun.
Yeah. I mean, your flexibility is something that's been talked about on many occasions, and I think probably, a lot of people have screamed in agony watching you getting stretched in a million positions. Because I know I have, so I'm sure it's the same with everybody else. And it's kind of become, to a certain extent, your calling card, and you do end up in a lot of your matches getting stretched into a million different submissions because of your flexibility that comes from the dancing. Is that? I mean, I'm trying to think of how to word this question. But when you're when you're putting a match together with someone, do you sort of say to him, right? Well, okay, look, if you've got any submissions, I'm particularly flexible. Pull even harder, or do you have people?
Not really.
Have you anybody who's like been reticent or scared to pull too hard or twist you too hard in case they pull you too hard?
A lot of things you kind of feel how things go while you're out there. I mean, it's like, consider the second. Was it the second? I think it was the second match I had. Maybe it was the first match. Maybe it was me with when I had Cheerleader Melissa and Shimmer. I believe it was our first match, and she put me in like the reverse. What was it, like a reverse cloverleaf type
yeah.
deal? And obviously I'm kind of just laying there and taking it, and so she just like kind of keeps taking it further and further. I'm like, what the hell? This girl is not stopping bending, until she's got my foot touching my head, and she just kind of continues on with it from there.
That was,
I mean, my only point in that is that it's just something that people kind of grab you and they'll start throwing you around trying to see like where they can get you to. They're like, wow, cool, let's just keep going. Let's see what's going to happen here.
So that famous bit in Volume 1 when Melissa causes you to kick your own head from that reverse cloverleaf, that was never necessarily a planned thing. That was just something that you guys felt when you were doing it, and that sort of just happened when you were there?
It was something that she felt when we were doing it. It was never even a thought in anyone's head that, oh, I'm going to see if I can do this.
Right.
It just wasn't. Honestly, I mean, even though, I had, so many matches with IWA before, it was until that point, I don't think anyone else, even a lot of the other wrestlers, even realized the extent of my flexibility. And I think that's where a lot of it started coming out from.
Sure. I mean, that match was the first match that I ever saw you in originally when I got that Volume 1. And I probably watched and rewatched Volume 1 more times than I had watched sort of any other Shimmer DVD since when it came out originally, because it was so different to what I'd been watching in wrestling for so long.
Yeah.
That I watched it. And that match in particular, I mean, there was a bunch of really great matches in that first DVD, but that match with you and Melissa was the one that probably I've worn out more than anything else watching DVDs, and that's the one that if someone sort of does say to me, what is this Shimmer thing about? Why are you such a fan of it? That would be one of the matches I would pull out and go, check this out, because it is so different.
That's awesome. Thanks.
I would sort of agree with that, but as opposed to your match with Melissa on Shimmer Volume 1, I would pull out your match with Melissa on Shimmer Volume 4, similarly because it's the first Shimmer DVD that I bought, and that was the one that really hooked me in and said, that's what this is all about.
Right.
So,
I think we definitely brought quite a bit of the intensity up in Volume 4.
It is quite interesting that both Stu and I both point to a Melissa versus MsChif match as a fine example about what the promotion was all about when it first began, but yet pick different matches. I guess it just shows that you did have a string of good matches in those early days, as a lot of other wrestlers did, but I guess that kind of sets the tone for what Shimmer was about.
Yeah, I think so. It really, brought us all together and realized, we finally got a platform to be able to really go out and do this stuff. Let's do it.
Were you in any way aware when you were champion, there was like a big groundswell amongst Shimmer fans about how they wanted to see the rematch, they wanted to see another match between you guys for the belt?
Yeah, I think so. you know, but at the same time, it's like, we're tag partners too, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I realize sometimes people turn on others, but, you know, for the most part, if you're a unit, you're a unit. You're not out to get one another, you know? I don't know. That's the way I saw it.
Yeah, fair enough. As far, I mean, and in fact, the first show that we ever attended live, the main event of the first taping was you two against the Dangerous Angels, which was a brilliant match. And
Love that.
And the second show was the show that you won the Shimmer title. So it was pretty much an amazing thing for the first show that we went to get sort of like, you know, have that as the exclamation mark on the end, because I'll be honest with you, whilst we've now become, you know, veteran Shimmer attendees to the point where, you know, we've been to, how many of them now?
A million.
We've been to a million. We've been to a million tapings now. On that first show, I was tired by the end of that first day. As a fan, I was getting, you know, and by the end, by halfway through your your match with Del Rey, I was flagging a bit. And when you won the belt, it was like it was like whoa! And I remember jumping up to my feet and throwing my arms up in the air. So, you know, thanks for that, because that was a great way to finish it. And I thought, okay, I've got to go back now.
Nice.
And then, as you say, we've been to a million since.
Yeah, damn you for making us spend so much money. We'd be rich men
right
now.
To have you guys over here.
That's right. We would be rich if we didn't spend all that money. Stop making me think about that.
Stop being good.
But think about how much you enjoy it.
Oh, we do. That's why we keep coming back. It's like a horrible drug.
We've taken financial advice from you in the past. You realise this? There was, yeah.
Actually, I'm taking that financial advice right now.
Yeah, there was one time we had met up after the shows, and I'd explained at one point that I had a couple of $100 to take home, and I was disappointed by this, because I usually like to, when I'm coming home from a Shimmer trip, have no money left. And you were like, oh no, it's okay, save it for the next time. And I did. When I came home, I didn't change it back to pounds. I put it in a envelope and put it aside for the next Shimmer trip. And I think, Lee, you're doing pretty much the same thing now.
I have a couple of hundred sitting in a pot.
Yeah.
We are going to be back in October.
You don't have to pay the extra exchange rate, you know, because they always charge you more when you want to change it back to your own money.
Well, that's the thing. We're stupid and we keep doing that. So we're gonna stop doing that, and we're going to start being smart with our money. Having said that, if we were smart with our money, we'd probably keep you guys over here.
You know you're going to be needing it.
Indeed. As far as, let's talk just again probably about a couple of your sort of bigger matches during the time of your title run. The match you had with Mercedes Martinez on Volume 20, title defense, is held up by quite a few people as the best Shimmer title match that's ever happened.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard that opinion from quite a few people. Any opinions? Any thoughts on that match? I mean, you two seem to gel very well.
I mean, that match does hold to one of my favorite matches, and especially with just Mercedes herself. You know, that is definitely one of my favorite matches with Mercedes. She's also an amazing athlete, and you know, it's really fun to be able to go out there and wrestle with someone like that. And it is. I mean, that one is also among my favorite matches. You know, it's fun stuff.
What about your title match with Daisy? Because that one I remember for being very, very different as far as the crowd was concerned. Because usually you have your kind of rowdy crowd when you're at a Shimmer show, and you have a little sort of hustle and noise going on. But for that match, everybody was just sitting there in total silence watching you two wrestle, like a Japanese crowd, I suppose. It was a very different atmosphere.
It was. I don't think anyone knew what to make of it at first. You know, that's kind of the way I see it. I mean, it's like, seriously, I mean, it's like I said, like, I don't have a freaking style of wrestling. My style is whoever the hell's in the ring. That's my style of wrestling for that night. You know, and it's like, when do you ever see a MsChif match where, you know, my first half of the match is completely technical? I don't wrestle technical. Not unless I'm wrestling Daisy Hayes, you know, it's like, that's her forte, you know, she is so awesome with her technical wrestling. It's like, okay, if, you know, I don't get in there and be able to wrestle her style, then she's going to be freaking just wrestling circles around me, and people are going to be like, oh, what the hell's going on? What the hell? This is kind of what? You know, so I mean, it's just, you really have to be able to adapt yourself, adapt to other people's styles, you know, to make things mesh, to make things look good. And so I mean, it's like, for that to come out and those people seeing that and they're like, my God, I don't think I've ever even seen freaking MsChif put on the arm bar. What the hell was that? You know, and I don't know. That's the way I see it. I don't know what your opinion might be.
No, we were fascinated watching it. I think it was just, we were all sitting there just like leaning forward, just going, right, let's see what happens here then. It was really, really different. I loved it.
That match actually holds as another one of my favorites too, I have to say. And maybe it's just my own biasness of it being Daisy, but I don't know. It does. Because, I mean, you know, as far as we gave you all that technical stuff, I really think, you know, to me the match really kind of, you know, built up from there. We gave you a lot of good, you know, high spots and impacts and, you know, things to really round it out and complete it.
That's my kind of match.
Excellent.
Another one then that I'll throw out there, and you mentioned it in passing earlier on, was Volume 28. You did the three-way with Kong and Lufisto.
Yeah.
You managed to disprove my theory that all three-way matches involving women are terrible.
Excellent. That is awesome.
Congratulations for that, because generally that seems to be the way I see it. But you guys put on a fantastic one, and this was the complete opposite of the Daisy one, in that you guys just went 100 miles an hour pretty much right out the gate.
Something like that, you have to. You know, I mean, if you don't, then you know it's like you said. You know, where you thought, you know, you've never seen a good women's three-way match. I mean, you have to change the whole mentality of it, or people are going to get bored with what you're doing.
Mm. And the ending of the match, so you deliver Kong her first pinfall loss in Shimmer competition. I've such great memories of being so taken along in that match and screaming and shouting and just, you know, generally being a massive fan. I mean, that match, did it mean anything to you, to the fact that you got to be the person that got to pin Kong after all those matches?
It was freaking amazing. It really was. I was like so happy with it, and it was just I don't know. It was I don't know the right word for it. You know.
Because obviously Kong means a lot.
To be able to do that match, I'll put it that way. Yeah,
because obviously Kong means a lot to you as well, and I guess, you know, a big match like that would have been a pretty cool thing. Just one other thing as far as Shimmer is concerned, you've worked with pretty much all of the Brits that have gone over there, or all the Europeans, even if we include Wesna as well. Any quick thoughts just about our contribution to the Shimmer canon? You worked Sweet Soraya on the last set.
Yeah.
How did you
know what? I tell you what, you British are some mouthy people.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
You're kidding me.
No, I mean, it's fun stuff. It really, really is. I mean, you think of like the British we've had in Shimmer, and think about the personalities, you know, from Eden Black and Jeddah, you know, and then where we've got Soraya and Brittany. I mean, it's amazing. You guys can, like, totally steal a show by standing there talking, you know. The big no-no that people don't want to see in wrestling, they're like, no, shut up for a second and just show me wrestling. But at the same time, you guys can just, I mean, these girls get on the mic and they're so entertaining, and it is so awesome. And it is, like, one of the refreshing things to me to be able to see and hear. But then, yeah, I mean, you guys, the British just really have an amazing style to them too. You know, they really do, and it's a lot of fun. You know, it's another challenge to get through. You know, to be able to adapt to, and it keeps things different. You know, it's good times.
As we go on looking into, you know, your second decade in the business, how do you continue to keep yourself fresh?
Man, I don't know. I really don't. Wow. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It's kind of like, one of the things I always try to keep my mind doing is like as I'm thinking of, different things that might be tried and come up with, it's twisting it around and being, okay, wait, what if it's taken from this angle? I mean, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one. I have to hope that I am keeping things fresh enough and keeping people entertained and not thinking they're just seeing the same thing.
Here's a suggestion. You could beat up more stars from Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
That could always work, because just in case people don't know about it, you were on the opposite end of Dustin Diamond earlier on this year at an AAW show.
Indeed.
What a random moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, how random, right? I mean, Dustin Diamond, what? It was a lot of fun, though, It really, really was. I mean, the guy tried his best. He's definitely not a well-rounded wrestler, but he did what he could. It was fun. It was interesting. And I think he kept his point to the point of entertainment where we needed it. So
that's a nice answer. I can read into that plenty. Question on the day job, just out of left field. I saw a quote where you'd said that your favorite bacteria in your microbiology life is one that smells like butterscotch.
Indeed. And that's because so many of them stink so freaking bad. It is so nice to be able to grab a plate and you get this whiff of butterscotch. And I'm like, oh man, thanks for not just smelling like someone's sweaty gym sock.
Are there any other bacteria that smell nice?
There are. A certain variety of one called Pseudomonas actually kind of has like a grapey smell to it. Other than that, I mean, there's not many. There really isn't. So a lot of them are just really bad stuff. I mean, a lot of the yeast aren't too bad. I mean, sometimes, I mean, it's yeast, it smells like someone just baking some bread. But you get a lot more bacteria than you ever get yeast.
Fair enough. You mentioned earlier on, and you had a sort of a mini rant, and I don't think there's even any real point in belabouring the fact that you're someone who's got absolutely no interest in leaving that life of microbiology to join the WWE or TNA rosters. The interesting thing is, I know you did, and you mentioned it briefly earlier on, you did have one, I think, explosion match on TNA way back in the day.
Yeah.
Was that just a case where you happened to be around and you did a match, or did you have one moment where you?
No, not really. It was actually a lot due to Kid Cash. Gateway had Kid Cash in for a show, and he worked with one of the guys from the promotion, and he came. It was more than just one show. He worked with one of the guys from Gateway, and he had also. I don't even remember what happened first. I don't remember if he had worked Delirious first or if the TNA gimmick happened first. I honestly don't even remember. But he got himself familiar with Delirious and myself and Daisy, and he watched. I believe me and Daisy even had a match that night, or one of the nights he was there. I should say that. And he was really impressed with what he was seeing, and he was really impressed with some of the guys he was seeing, and it was actually due to Kid Cash, talking to some of the people down there in management and getting us the booking. So it was like the four of us that went down there was myself and Daisy and Delirious, and the other guy's name was Billy McNeil. Mm-hmm. So, it was the four of us that went down there, and it was a lot due to Kid Cash at the time.
Was that, I mean, did you have a moment of, like, did you think for a minute, okay, maybe I could do the TNA thing, or was it literally just, I'll go and do one match?
No, at the time, I mean, I really hadn't been exposed to much of wrestling yet. Like I said, I was still only in St. Louis at the time. Mm. And TNA was something that was still, very new and just starting, and all they did is they did like, oh man, I think they did like 2 shows, was it 2 shows a month, I think? They only did like a show every other week. And so at the time it was something like that, and, they didn't have contracts for, at least, a lot of the younger talent. I don't know about the, more serious guys they had, but they didn't have contracts with people where, they were signing them in and owning their name. It's like when you came aboard TNA, you still owned yourself. You were you, and you did what you wanted to do. I mean, obviously they did the booking and told you what matches they were wanting, but you had a lot more freedom still at the time. It was still, a lot more run, kind of like an independent type mode of thought. So by that time, I was thinking, hey, maybe this could kind of work. If, I can start working with these guys, that'd be cool, because it was like they did so few shows at the time that I could have continued working in science and yet taken off a couple of days every other week to go down there, and do the TNA shows.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, yeah, it was a thought at the time, and it was not until, they got a little bit more serious and started, really bringing people in and changing things up on how they were running. That's when the thoughts changed.
And that's well, yeah. Well, we know what happened after that. But it's funny, actually. I mean, you sort of the way you described TNA back in those days. I kind of had a bit of a flash forward and thought, is that kind of like what ROH is like now?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Because, ROH, they don't bring you in and be like, okay, you're a good wrestler, so now we're going to give you this name and we're going to want you to wrestle, like this type of style.
Yeah.
It's not like that. They bring you in because of who you are, and they know you can work, what you are and do good with it, and they know that's where you're going to excel, and that's how they're going to use you. So, yeah, I mean, ROH isn't someone, who's going to bring you in just to crap all over you and then be like, oh, sorry, I guess you couldn't do what we wanted, Sorry to ruin you, but, yeah, later. That's not ROH. ROH is a lot more fun. It really is. You get to be yourself there, and, it's all about, putting on the best kind of match you can. And obviously, I mean, I know a lot of people still get upset with ROH. Oh, they never give the girls enough time and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? The way I see it, they are giving girls time,
Yeah.
We're there. So I'm happy for that. I think that's awesome and amazing, because for a while there, before booking changed over again, you weren't seeing any girls matches anywhere.
Yeah.
So what would you rather have? Do you want us in there at all, or do you want us out? I would prefer to get that 6 minutes in there. I mean, obviously, yes, it would be a lot more great for us if we could go out there and have a 15-minute match. But hey, if that's not time they can allow, whatever. They allow us time. That's the point.
And I mean, through your association with ROH, you've been not only on a bunch of their shows and DVDs, but you've been on iPay-per-view, and you've been on HDNet on TV as well. Any thoughts or opinions on the fact that they've just been purchased by Sinclair Broadcasting, and they look like they're going to be back on the air come September?
I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts about that, because, I mean, I don't know all the workings behind it and what's going on and what's happening, but what I do think is incredibly exciting is that not only are they back on the air, but they are back on the air for just about everybody. If you don't have to have specific cable channels to be able to tune in and watch them. I mean, you don't even have to have cable at all, from the way I understand it.
You can still watch it on the website, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, aren't they more of just a standard network? Because the way I understood it is they're not some big cable, on some big cable station that, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but to me it seems like it's something that's way more available to so many more people.
Yeah, I think they've got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, so they have options all around the country.
Yeah, so I think that's just a really amazing thing, and it's just, that can, seems to me, only be good for them, so that's exciting.
presumably it's something you'd like to be part of. I mean, you know, we're never going to see MsChif on Monday Night Raw, perish the thought. We're never going to see MsChif on Impact, but you know, if you're lucky and you wish hard enough, you might get to see MsChif on ROH on Sinclair.
Yes, let's hope. You know, I mean, as many people have told me, you know, like, oh, I can't wait to see you, you know, on Monday night. I'm like, well, you're not going to. And then they're like all disappointed. But I really wanted to see you on TV. I'm like, well, guess what? Give Shimmer a TV deal then. How about that? You know, that used to be my answer. I was like, the only way you're going to see me on TV is if Shimmer comes up with a TV deal. But hey, ROH works too. You know, if I can keep working for ROH and they get even this great TV deal, I mean, that would just be absolutely awesome.
All right. Okay. Well, listen, MsChif, I've got to say, it's been a long time coming, but it's been very entertaining.
Wait. I have one more question.
Oh, go on.
I have one more question. Now, when I got in touch with MsChif for this interview, I said that we were going to come up with brand new questions that haven't been asked before. So, my final question is, how did we do?
Absolutely awesome. I got to tell you, you really did. I have to say, there's been so many interviews that I've given, and it's like you get so tired of the same questions over and over and over. And I mean, I realize a lot of these questions are like the main basic questions that are expected to be asked. But I'm like, really? Because how many interviews do you have to do before someone finally gets the answer to it and can move on to the next question? You know, I mean, it's just like all the time. How did you get into wrestling? But you know what? You guys covered that. However, you covered it in a way that's not just, so tell me, how did this happen? You know, you covered it in a way that's like, you know, so I heard before that you said, you know, somebody asked you about this. You know, so I mean, yeah. I mean, while you guys did have to go back and cover some of the basics still that are the same questions always asked, you did it in a way that brought it around to be more interesting to me. So yes, I thank you and applaud you for it.
I love you, MsChif.